What is going on with Assetto Corsa EVO? The good, the bad, the ugly, the philosophical. Tom's with me, and we're going to talk about it.
Yes, that's right. The 0.2 or second major early access update was recently released. We've both been playing it, and a lot of thoughts are ringing around in our heads. So let's quickly dive into them. What do you think, John, is the good parts of this particular update?
First of all, I like the new cars, the new content. I think the new sports cars, the Honda NSX R, you've obviously got the Porsche 911 Turbo, the 1993 variant. As I expected, these high-powered road cars, even medium-powered road cars, rear-wheel drive, the handling for me is really, really strong. So the cars are just feeling very natural to drive. You can slide them around in a way that I think is realistic, in my personal opinion. The FFB is pretty good as well. That is probably the strongest point for Assetto Corsa EVO at this moment, in my opinion. Don't know what you think. What you think, Tom?
There's actually a couple of things to unpack from what you've said there, I think. Let's just talk about the car detail. I think the car models, I think they are the best car models I've seen in a game in terms of accuracy and exacting nature of the interiors and exteriors. Like, even the small little dials on lights are seemingly perfect. When you drive the Honda, for example, the radio has like a little digital readout that reads "Drive you tonight," which they didn't need to do. And when you stall it, all the dashboard lights come on as if you would in the real world.
Did you stall it, Tom? You must have stalled
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's part of the thorough road test procedure to spin and stall, and I love those details and the pop-up headlights, and it's very polyphony-esque in its detail
like
of the
that.
cars. Yes. And for those who are on PlayStation, have never experienced that level of detail in a car, amazing. Flip side being the driving dynamics, and I enjoy it as well. But for me, the force feedback is woeful at the minute. So just to be clear on that, I think you're experiencing good force feedback on which wheelbase were you using?
SimuCube 2 Pro.
Right. I'm on a lot more affordable Thrustmaster T598, but still direct drive and current, and very popular. And there's basically nothing coming back at all. So I quite like the way that the road cars behave, because like the new 911 that they added, the 964 generation, that was known at the time for being a bit peaky in its performance, let's say, and a bit wayward.
I did spin it on like the third corner as well, so that they got that pretty good.
So that's actually accurate. There might be people complaining, going, "Oh, I can't control this car." Well, it is meant to be difficult. Anything else?
On that, Tom, can you appreciate the physics even if the force feedback isn't there?
I can, because like if on the new Alpha Giulia, for example, I downshifted a bit too early and the rear stepped out.
Yeah.
But then I was still able to catch it, and because it's like a softer sprung, even though it's maybe a track-focused vehicle, it's an older vehicle with skinnier tires. You could then it sort of slew through the corner.
You can dance with it. I love it.
Yes, it didn't snap. And that's a really great thing as well. It's also very easy to be so used to GT3 and GT4 cars in modern contemporary sim racing. And these road cars do behave differently to that, and it's a different driving technique. So I really appreciated that element of the driving experience. Yeah, absolutely.
I've seen lots of discourse as well about the graphics. Some people say it looks worse than original vanilla AC, which I totally disagree with. Some people say it looks like the best game they've ever seen. I'm somewhere in the middle, but I think the graphics are pretty good. The sounds as well, I think, are pretty good.
You know, a lot of Assetto Corsa clips or experiences, especially on PC, are modified.
Modded, yeah, shaders and all that.
Yeah, and that really enhances the visuals. And so they are, Kudos has created a rod for it, so I'm back in some respects because they're up against the modding scene.
Modded AC might look better than ACE, but can you really compare that fairly? I don't know. That's down to opinion.
And I suppose to round out the positives for now, and there are others we haven't mentioned, I think that they've changed the roadmap. I still think it's a tricky one, because you still don't want to be held to account on the roadmap per se when for example, Le Mans Ultimate didn't release a clear roadmap early on because it's early days and things are evolving. Kudos and 505 Games went with one, and they've had to change it immediately, which is a bit of an about turn, but I think it's more spaced out now. There's no content drops in between main updates. I think that's a positive shift. Yes, looks like free roam is pushed further back, but okay, that's fine. Let's focus on the driving experience, the visual performance, things like this first. So I think that's a positive thing. And I also think there's no fall 2025 release target now for version 1.0. And I think that's also key, because If it was in this state now and they're still going to release it in fall 2025, I would have serious concerns. But now they might or might not, depending on how development goes, have a bit more leeway.
Let's move it on to the bad, and I'm going to save the bigger ones till the end. We'll start with some of the smaller things. Let's work our way up to this. I still find the game pretty glitchy. I still see quite a few issues with the UI not being very clear, settings that I choose not quite applying, races sometimes not working. Obviously, these are normal expected things, especially in early access, so you can't complain. But I don't think that the game is as clean as it could be for sure at this stage.
It's not the end of the world at this stage, I don't think, if now we think it might not be coming out in fall.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it needs a bit of time. I am still very much struggling with performance. If I go for like an ultra graphics preset and a very strong and beefy PC, even when I'm driving on my own, I have big FPS issues. When I'm racing against AI, it is almost undrivable at times. So for me, obviously, there are little settings you can tweak, but the performance of the game, especially on lower powered PC, that is something that causes me a lot of concern and will prevent a lot of people from being able to play this game, unlike the original Assetto Corsa, for instance, which runs very smoothly.
Yeah, let's hope it's optimized and smoothed out over time. I think there are maybe some other priorities at the minute that they're working on. Who knows? I don't want to speak for them. But what would you think is the biggest flaw right now?
I mean, aside from the missing modes, I'm not going to call that a flaw because it's an early access title and we're building towards that. The biggest flaw of what's actually there for me at the moment is the AI. And I've said this before, if you've seen any of my streams where I'm playing this game, you'll have witnessed my frustrations, but I just can't race the AI. They're not fast enough. They don't act in a natural way. They're unpredictable in a bad way. They break in the wrong points. They crash into each other. They crash into me. They don't always load in the correct form. I am just really not having any good races with the AI at the moment. I'm not saying you can't, but it's very, very difficult for me to find a good race. AI, very easy to overtake. I mean, they're wobbling around like, what is that? They're braking on a straight. Okay, so before... If you're in the market for some new sim racing hardware, then we might have something of interest for you. You can now get a 5% discount on all Asetek Sim Sport products, whether that's wheelbase, a steering wheel, pedals, or any other accessories and customization options. Doing this is a win-win because you guys get cheaper hardware and obviously it helps support our channel as well. So if you want to get involved, check out the link in the description down below and use the code TraxionGG before you check out to get that 5% discount. Back to the video.
Here's why I think AI is important, because there'll be a lot of people who just want to use it as a sim racing sandbox. And so this is not an issue for that sort of type of player, and I appreciate and respect that. And then there's another cohort of players who really want to focus on the competitive online multiplayer, and that hasn't arrived yet, although will be in the next major update or step 1. But the reason it matters is that this game has talked a lot, and kudos to Sony, the developers, talked a lot about career progression, driving academies, in-game currency, XP, buying cars, tuning cars, customizing cars, some form of career mode that in the menu, which is a new addition this time, it says career and open. For the career mode to be successful and a rewarding loop, the AI performance has to be much improved. And this particular update, in the bullet points, it did say AI opponents, step 1, and there's over maybe 14-ish or so bullet points about AI improvements. I'm not saying those improvements haven't happened, but they haven't resulted in a meaningful experience change for the player.
Yeah, I mean, it's all very well and good having better AI pit stops, but if you can't get through the first lap cleanly, then there's no point. So yeah, I'm not sure about that. There's another thing I want to mention. This isn't as strong an opinion, and it's not as bad, but I said I love the road car handling. I'm not as big a fan of the race car handling at the moment in the physics. I feel like I would rather race a GT2 or a GT car in general on ACC at the moment than AC Evo, even for hot lapping, let alone AI racing or online racing.
That's also another polyphony-esque thing. I'm going to get maybe eaten alive for comparing it to Gran Turismo 7 here, but they are also trying to have career progression and car tuning and currency. And Gran Turismo 7 is definitely road car physics is its forte, as opposed to the race cars, which feel a bit numb. I know that Gran Turismo 7 isn't a full sim, and this is trying to be. So there's another level above in terms of physics fidelity. But yeah, it's similar. Quite interesting.
So with all of this, it's interesting because the discourse is heavily mixed, and there's a lot of negativity. There's also a lot of defensive positivity going on, and everyone's different. Everyone's experiencing it in a different way with a different hardware on a different PC, VR, triples, single, whatever it might be. And I think there's a couple of main takeaways for me. First of all, the people who are saying it's hard to be critical, you shouldn't be super critical because it's early access and these things are being worked on and you're helping the devs out. I don't think you can actively argue against that in a like objective way, because when you pay for this game in the first place, you know, factually speaking, you are buying a game in early access. You're not buying a full release. That's been made clear. The details within that we can argue, but at the end of the day, you are doing exactly that. You don't have to buy the game in early access. You can wait for a full release and judge it, or you can play the game now. Yes, it's flawed. They acknowledge it'll be flawed, but you can help the developers improve it, give feedback, and be on the journey. So I cannot argue against that point that people make about early access. That doesn't change how I actually feel, though, subjectively, about the overall experience and how this period affects the long-term appeal of Assetto Corsa EVO. Because for me, when version 1.0 finally launches, I'm going to have already build up this group of scars from this game. I'm already going to know what all the cars feel like. I'm going to know the tracks. I'm going to have experienced the different modes, the flaws, the problems as they've been slowly tweaked away. And then when the actual full release comes, I'm not going to think, wow, this feels amazing, a new looking game, new feeling, new cars, new modes. I'm just going to be looking at it going, right, what is the 1 or 2 extra modes that have now been added as opposed to version 0.9? And that takes away a lot of the magic for me about a game like this.
Well, it's the third Assetto Corsa title, right? It's a huge thing, and we're all still very excited for it, let's be clear. But yeah, I think you've got a point there in so much as it robs some of the excitement, especially when it's clearly not in a good state at the minute. Having said that, it is valuable for feedback. It gives them some revenue to help maybe finish the project. Although we believe, if their parent company is publicly listed, right? They've got money from, well, certainly the Assetto Corsa, the first one, and ACC have been extremely profitable and high revenue drivers for the company. So it shouldn't be a case of they needed to release this for money like a Le Mans Ultimate, for example. I would also counter it slightly with, there was a lot of hype pre-launch for this. Some of that is fans, but remember, we tried it at the Sim Racing Expo. That was a big thing. There was a keynote released on Christmas Day. Some content creators were paid to deliver their first impressions. There was also the game before it came out in early access was on the third-party key websites like G2A, and they had sponsored Instagram boosted posts, aggressively promoting this title for the launch.
The lavish trailers as well.
Lavish trailers, press releases, but in some respects, it was marketed in a very, let's say, outlandish way for a very early access release. Contrast that to Wreckfest 2, which they said, it's a thing. Then they said, it's coming out in early access. Then nothing. Then on the early access day, one trailer, and a promise that, okay, it's going to be 2 or 3 months before the next significant updates. So everybody played it for a bit and then knew expectations were set that there's not too much to do in here. That, to me, was perhaps the best early access strategy, because you need a degree of hype because you want to sell some units. But not this much, because then it's put extra undue pressure on Kuno Simulazione to deliver, and we've already had delays and changes to the roadmap. And I feel a bit sad about that whole process, really, because I don't think that much money needed to be spent at that stage of the game.
Of course, within all of this, you've got to remember that the developers of this game are just as desperate as you are for this to be a success, right? They will want to create the best game they can possibly do for their own sake, for their CV, for their passion, whatever it might be. So I guarantee they will be working very, very hard on delivering what they are promising. But obviously, every month that passes where the expectation is higher than the reality, it creates more pressure, it creates more impatience from the consumer, people like us who are saying, right, when's this going to be improved? When's this happening? So it's very, very tricky. But what do you guys think? That's what I want to know. Let us know down in the comments below whether you're a fan of AC EVO in its current state. Are you going to defend it because of the early access? Or are you going to criticize it because of a lack of what's there? We want to hear from you. You can also join the discussion over on our Discord channel. Link is in the description. And check out the Traxion website, because we have all of the latest news and updates on Assetto Corsa EVO in future. So keep an eye on that. Subscribe to this channel for more videos like this in future. And until I see you next time, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.